Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5 and episode number 670 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Monday, June 16th, 2025. And as you can tell by the light on my face coming through the window, it is a very sunny day here at the Beaver Lodge. I do not think there's a cloud in the sky, but to be totally honest, I can't tell because the sun is so bright that if I look straight up, I can't see, I can see only thing but like bright yellow and not much else. So I can't actually tell if there are clouds, to be honest, at the moment. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronounce he, him, he, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. We got a show planned for you today because I don't know, but nothing happened since we last chatted with each other on Thursday. Nothing at all. It was just calm. The whole world was thoughtful and demurish.
Yes, nothing took place over the course of the last few days. Nothing.
Holy frickin'. But before we go into that, Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
It's not great. My physical health is still suffering. I still feel like I did, like when I woke up this morning, I almost thought, no, I can't do this today. I'm feeling nothing but pain throughout my entire body, which affects your mental health. And I spent most of the day yesterday in bed. Was not a good day. Just physically feeling like crap. Every muscle hurts, but I don't have any symptoms of anything else, like no cough, no fever, no sniffles, no headache. Well, my migraines, but that's my life. But nothing, no fever, no coughs, no sneezing, no stuffed up, no allergies. It's just like physical pain throughout my whole body. So I don't know what the hell the cause is, but I spoke to a buddy and the same thing occurred to him. Saturday he was scheduled to go meet some people, and we're on a group chat, and I saw it. I said, no, I'm not feeling good. And they went out, and he texted at the last minute, said, guys, I'm really not feeling good. I'm just going to stay home. So I spoke to him yesterday, and he was feeling a little bit better, but I don't know. There must be something going around, or maybe it's just old man syndrome. I don't know.
Got OMS? Take relaxin'.
Something, man. I'm tired of being in pain all the time. I was talking to Bridget yesterday, and I said, I just want to have 24 hours pain-free. Is that too much to ask for? 24 hours, no pain, no headache, no backache, no muscle pain, just 24 hours.
Yep.
It is too much to ask for. It's not going to happen. There's more suffering in this world that needs to be alleviated than my minor inconvenience, because really I can still function every day. There are other people who have it 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. But Yeah, like I said, there's only a couple of instances in my life where that has happened. There was one time after surgery, and doctors told me, like, it'll take like 6 weeks before like swelling goes down and stuff like that. And it was like, okay, like I'm at 6 weeks minus 1 day, and it's still as swollen as day one. When is this going to go? And then like on the next day, it just like disappeared. And like this, but I was
Yeah.
like standing at one point because where I had the surgery, when I was standing, all the pressure was like on the stitches. 'Cause I remember it was like we had to go vote, and it's like I was like standing in line, and it's like I'm with with my beaver sweetie. It's like, yeah, I need to sit down now. So uh please hold our place in line, and when we get close to us, just give me a holler because
Mm.
I'm about to pass out. Um and
Yeah.
somewhere along that time, somewhere in those 6 weeks, was like, just stop for one freaking day. Right.
Well, when I tore my shoulder in 2017, they said 6 weeks minimum, and it took 8.
Mm,
He said 6 to 8 weeks, 6 weeks minimum. It took 8, and on the like, literally the next day, like, going into the 9th week, it was like, "Holy crap."
yeah, yeah,
It literally took it was like digital, "Okay, and switch the pain off."
yeah, yeah,
So, weird,
yeah. It's
weird.
only
And
happened.
I'm one who tends to heal very quickly and responds very well to medication,
Yeah.
usually, although I'm not somebody who is good, when they put you under for any type of surgery, when they anesthetize you, my whole family, we seem to have some sort of allergy or something. You know how you could go in, they put you under, they do the surgery, they check you out the same day. Yeah, that when that happens to any of us, they go, "Oh, we're going to check you back in because
Mm,
my limbs don't function, my brain doesn't function, I can barely speak." My sisters are like that, my mom is like that, my dad is like that. Our whole family does not respond well to anesthesia for some reason.
mm,
Obviously, it works, but it's like, I'm not in good shape
mm. Okay,
for
I see.
days afterwards. So,
Alright. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Alright, kids and cubs. So much, to get into today, but, before we do that, we have to do our, Oilers check-in, and, oh,
I got nothing
man.
else to say other than that. I mean, like, you
I
sent me
was
this, and this is kind of funny, but
I it's what they need right now, I think. Jeez.
I'm like, they're just nothing's
Um,
working for them right at this moment. So I don't know. They're suffering.
that and you know what? See, I got played because the previous match before that one where they were down 3-0 and then they came back and they won in overtime,
Yeah,
right? I
and I
was so
thought they were going
tired
to be
and I
able to
fell
pull
asleep.
this one.
Yeah. I kinda
Yeah,
checked out after the first period and fell asleep and all that kind of stuff. That night, I watched because I thought, "Okay,
Saturday
okay, that's
they're going
fine,"
to pull it off.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it didn't happen. Like,
no,
it wasn't happening at all. And holy
was
crap, that Marchand guy, what the
yeah,
hell?
yeah. No,
Like, he just, like,
that's the
jump
reason
and
Florida
skip and
got him.
spit and what like, and that step thing he does off the face-offs. 'Cause,
Mhm.
I mean, he's done it more than once now. Yeah,
Well,
think
Chris, I
about it.
agree with you, by the
Oh, no,
way.
it
The
isn't over.
series isn't over, and I still think Edmonton's gonna win it. It's gonna take 7 games. I still think Edmonton's gonna win it. I don't know if anybody caught the clip of Connor McDavid walking to the dressing room, and then when he went into the dressing room, he was pissed,
Mhm.
and justifiably so, and he was calling out every one of his teammates for not giving 100%. He really and then, of course, they closed the curtain, but you could still hear him, and I'm like, "Yeah, I've been in locker rooms like that. I know what
Mm,
that's like."
mm,
I understand what he's saying. He's like, "Guys, it's the Stanley Cup Finals. There's no tomorrow. We can't do this." And then he was pissed, justifiably so, and I agree with everything he said.
mm,
'Cause there's guys on the team who just aren't, and I've seen their defensive breakdowns, how some of those goals are getting scored. It's like, where's the defense?
right?
Guys, you're hanging your goalie out to dry. You're either screening him or hanging him out to dry. You cannot do that against Florida. They're too
Yep,
good of a team.
yep, yep,
So you cannot coast. No, you can't coast. You gotta be 100%, 100% of the time
yep.
when you're in the finals.
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
not, you look at what happens.
It's not
Florida
like
is in the
it's
3
not like
years in a row, they're in the finals.
exactly,
That's
and
not
it's
by
not
luck.
like it doesn't know how to win,
Exactly.
right?
So Yeah. Look, I still think Edmonton's going to win it. I do. I honestly do. But it is going to take 7 games.
Well, now
Game
it's going
6
to have to
is
if they do.
yeah, game 6 is on Tuesday.
Yep.
They get 2 days off, so Sunday, Monday. So game 6 is on Tuesday, back in Florida, and then game 7 would be on, I think, Friday, but I'm not sure about that. I'd have to check the schedule. If anybody knows, please put it in the chat. I think it's on Friday would be game 7, which would be the latest Stanley Cup final ever, I think.
Right. Yeah, I think would be Friday because they've been when they've been traveling, they've been getting 2 nights off rather than one
For the most
lately.
part, yeah.
Yeah, Friday, 8 p.m.
It is Friday.
as
That's
well.
what I thought. So they went 7 games last year, but I'm not sure what um, what the date was. I'm going to see if I can find it here on my phone. When was the Stanley Cup awarded? In
June 24th.
2024.
June
And what was
24th.
it? June 24th. Oh, so that would be even later. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Last year was later than this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Holy crap. I didn't realize that. I did watch the series last year because, we were all kind of cheering them on.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so last year it was the 24th. This year it'll be the 20th if they pull it off and go to 7 games, which I believe they will. I still believe they will. They had I don't know, a momentary lapse of reason. They were asleep at the switch on Saturday.
Yep.
Well, and no argument there, Christian. No argument there. Here's the thing, though. I don't have a problem with the players getting paid the money they're getting, because if they're getting that kind of money, think how much money the owners are getting. Between TV contracts, ticket sales, merch. I don't. If they're willing to pay the players that much, it's because they can afford it.
Right.
Is what it boils down to. I don't want to pick on the workers. I know they're paid well, but they're still the workers. The owners are in this to turn a profit. Sure, they love the game, but they're in it to turn a profit. So,
Yeah.
if they ain't making money, they get out of the game, right? It's
Mhm.
simple as that.
Indeed. In other news, and this one I am getting here from the chat, from our our members of the Dam fam, but it seems that Mr. Jagmeet Singh got himself into a little online spat somehow, or trouble. It seems that he was, according to Kit Saucy, Jagmeet Singh went to the Kendrick Lamar concert. Drake
Oh, in
saw that.
Toronto.
Yes, Drake saw that and sent a DM calling him a goof, then posted it on Instagram. Then Singh made a post saying, well, he was there for SZA and Drake over Lamar.
A lot of people said, "I'm just going to see SZA." I'm like, I
Sure
don't
you are.
care. I don't care. I really, I don't give a shit.
Li-
Oh, by the way,
listen,
Goof.
SZA is big enough to headline on her own.
Yeah, I agreed.
If you want to see SZA, just SZA. Why would you throw in the extra money for Drake and Lamar, who are also huge names? You just
Yeah.
go see SZA.
Well, Drake and Lamar weren't on the bill. It was just Lamar and SZA.
Right.
But here's the comment, though. Calling him a goof. Do you know what that means?
I don't know, actually.
It's not like, oh, you're being silly. Goof is a slag in prison terms in Canada, and it's a bad one. They call you a goof. You are the lowest of the low.
Great.
In the penal system. So, and I discovered this years ago by sitting in a pub one night and having a conversation with this guy. And I said, "Oh, don't be so goofy." He goes, "What did you call me?" And I said, "Don't be so goofy. Don't be silly. Don't be ridiculous." And the bartender just leaned over, grabbed him by the arm and said, "He doesn't know. He didn't call you that. He doesn't know." And I go, "I don't know what." Then they proceeded to explain it to me. This guy had done a few bits. So, and a bit is a prison term.
Yes.
He'd done a few bits and he explained it to me. I said, "Well, thank you for telling me that, because I didn't know, and I don't want to be getting myself into trouble."
Understandable. Okay, so see, I'm learning something here. So yeah, apparently he says he was there for Scissor and Drake over Lamar. It seems there was some articles over over the last few weeks. Some people looking at the NDP and what it is that they lost, and a lot of people, some of the more eminent screes like Charlie Angus and whatnot, who are now outside the the official party because his career he's in a post-political career and he's not looking at running again for the leadership or anything like that. But it's like, we need to stop trying to win TikTok and start trying to win like actual knocking on doors and winning the actual voter. So yeah, the it helped get him in the press, in the early days, young and hip and attentive, plugged in and, all that kind of stuff. But, some people are wondering now if it's maybe just a little bit seeking attention.
Hmm.
Then again, right, on the other side, he's a private citizen now. Private citizens go to concerts. Private citizens post when they go to concerts. And what people choose to do with that is what people choose to do with that. Right? And you can't control. Once you put something out on social media, you have to uh, no longer be emotionally attached to it
Mm.
afterwards, because once you put it out there, what happens to it
Yeah,
is you
it's
no longer
out of
have
your
any
control.
control and is not about you. It's
It's not
really not
about you.
about you.
It's out of your control, so just leave it be.
Yeah. But it's hard to create something, even if it's just supposed like, hey, I went out and I had a good time, like this, and then somebody goes, oh my god, can't believe you went to see that. Oh my god, you're such a whatever. Like, it's like the incoming sometimes is a lot in Fast and Furious, and if you're not having a good day when you see the incoming come in, chances are, you might give it a little more weight or attention than you need to. But it's like once you create, even like art, right? If artists know this, once you create an art and you put it out there, once you write it, you're a writer, once you put it out there, it's no longer yours, right? I mean, copyright and all that kind of stuff, yes, it's yours, but I mean, it's no longer yours, right? Then it becomes the art and people talk about it. And the art is meant to generate discussion, good, bad, or ugly. So just because the discussion happens to be bad or ugly doesn't mean that that's your fault, right? So, but it's yeah, living online is still, even though like we're getting used to it, it's still weird. It's still really weird, and it's
Mhm.
probably, I mean, it's probably just as weird for people who had it their entire lives, but for those like, our generation, whatnot, who knew a certain amount of life before online was a thing, and online after. Online's weird.
Not
It's
real
just
life.
really
Not real life.
weird. All right, let's get into some stuff. Oh, okay. So, kits and cups. Um, G7 is coming.
Mhm.
Technically, it's here. It starts today officially, but people started arriving yesterday, and there have been some side-by-side meetings and stuff like that. People, if you've been online, you've probably seen Mark Carney sitting along with Keir Starmer, who's the leader of the UK, and you probably saw him sitting with Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the head of South Africa. That again, not the head because it's the king as well, but Democratic head of South Africa, also happens to be the chair of the G20, which is one of the reasons for which he is here. And you've probably seen, a couple of other things. So some people have started to arrive. Donald Trump did arrive yesterday. There's images of him getting off the plane and that kind of stuff. Um, so it seems he didn't die of embarrassment over the course of the weekend and made it, and didn't, his ego wasn't so bruised that he decided to cross his arms and give himself a self-soothing hug. And
Well, eh,
um,
contrary to U.S. official U.S. or White House statement of 250,000 people attended the parade. Um,
yeah,
Maybe
no,
those are Sean Spicer numbers because
yeah, that was yeah, no,
that's not
that
even close.
that did not happen.
That didn't
Uh,
happen.
Didn't happen at all. Mr. Merz arrived already, who's the leader of Germany as well. And then there are some people who will be arriving a little later. Claudia Schonbein will arrive on today. President Zelensky, NATO Secretary General Rutte will join on Tuesday. And if you're wondering why the staggered arrivals is the first day of the G7 is usually the G7 meetings themselves. And then the second day is usually sort of like the global outreach day where they talk to other people. So, right. So certain people will the arrivals will be scheduled. It's not going to be everybody near the end. Everybody's going to be there at the same time, but at least at the incoming people, the arrivals are staggered. Prime Minister also met with Prime Minister Albanese uh, from Australia. Apparently, they discussed trade, defense, critical minerals, and wildfire response. Carney thanked Australia for supporting Alberta's wildfire efforts and emphasized strengthening bilateral relationships for shared growth in a more dangerous world. When he was talking to Starmer, apparently they were having a bilateral meeting with a Canadian AI company that apparently does. Their brand is ethical AI or AI for the benefit
Mm.
of humanity, and it seems that there's going to be some type of trade deal going on there of some type. So, business has already started. However, this is happening in Alberta. And when you say Alberta, well, you have to say Danielle Smith. And now, some people thought I was unfair because Friday she was at the airport greeting some people who were arriving beforehand, whatnot. And I'm like, why the hell is she there? And she was at the airport yesterday greeting people. It's like, why the hell is she there? And everybody's like, well, come on, man. Like, it's Alberta, it's kind of her purview. And it's like, I get that if you see the world as the event is happening in Alberta,
Mhm, mhm.
because that she would be there. But here's the thing. The G7 meeting is a Government of Canada production,
Not the
not
province
a
of Alberta.
Government of Alberta production. And while she should be there to greet the dignitaries, well, I have a feeling that the government of Canada has a lot more experience in greeting dignitaries. It's kind of what it does. It
Yeah.
does the diplomatic work. So her assistance is not particularly required,
No.
right? So it's a courtesy that she is invited to do these things. She doesn't necessarily have a right to be there. Now, of course, if Prime Minister Mark Carney told Danielle Smith that, I'm sorry, you can't come, much like he told Rebel News,
Yeah, well,
who are
testified
fundraising off it.
they have testified that they are not a news
I know,
organization.
but who are fundraising off it now,
Of course
saying,
they
"We
are.
were let into the debates, you gotta let us in." And it's like, yeah, of course you are. And click goodbye. It's like,
Thank you, next.
"We're gonna sue." Yeah, yeah, you go do that, knock yourselves out.
Go ahead.
Anyway, you're still not coming. So
Go ahead and sue, it don't matter, you're not gonna win win because 'cause you're
yeah,
not a news organization, so you don't have a right to be there.
no,
You
no,
don't.
and
Canadian press and the journalistic corps can just say, "No, they're not, we don't want them."
and we just saw what you did on debate night, so it's
Yeah.
not like the prime minister has to be particularly inclined to let you in this time because somebody was weak and folded
Mhm.
like a cheap suit,
Mhm.
uh, debate commission guy, and allowed you in, and you showed the world what you would do with the opportunity if it was given to you.
Well, and I'm going to go out on a limb here
Sorry.
and suggest that the debate commission guy just didn't want to be seen as a heavy-handed fascist by not allowing an organization in to ask questions, and it blew up in his face. I
There's a
think
reason.
because he knew damn well they would say, "Hey, they won't let us in. They're just a bunch of da 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 da."
Yep. And he
And I'm
said, "Oh,
like,
I
"You know
don't
what?
want the problem. Fine, just come."
Be brave. Do the right thing. People are gonna call you what they wanna call you anyway, so just screw it, man. Do the right thing the first time,
Yep,
and this
absolutely.
all could have been avoided.
Yep. Now, there were other dignitaries in line, as Kit Cassie says. So was the mayor of Calgary. So were First Nations leaders.
Mm.
Now, First Nations leaders, I understand why they're there.
Yeah, well, there's a good reason for that.
Yes, right. Nation to nation, and technically, it's happening in their nation
Yes,
as well, or whatever, however you want to consider
on
that.
their land.
Yes. So, yeah, it's happening on their land, but it's our nation's event.
Yes.
So, and we are collaborating on a nation to nation basis. Um, with the other two, it's courtesy, right?
Mhm.
So, but Danielle has been having problems all weekend long too, leading up to that. So, um, she was probably thankful for the opportunity. Now, again, you know what I think about Danielle Smith,
Yeah,
right? So thirsty for attention that she would attend an opening of an envelope if there was a microphone and camera there, honey.
of course she would.
So, uh, she was probably really, really happy to have cameras and microphones on her without people of Alberta exerting some pushback.
Well,
it seems that people in Alberta have started noticing, and some people have, but really started noticing that Danny keeps on taking things away from them and keeps on trying to override them. Well, right now, Danielle is doing to the residents of Alberta that which she has been doing to all of Canada, acting like the human bulldozer. And despite what anybody says, yeah, I know you're saying that, but I'm just going to keep on doing because she's after being told no, I don't know how many times, she's still pushing that coal thing, mining that
Yeah.
mountain for coal, all for the benefit of one billionaire Australian.
And this did not go well for her.
Meeting for this evening. I just want to start by saying that sometimes you get into government and you inherit problems that are many decades in the making. I can tell you that Brian Jean didn't create the problems. I can tell you Rebecca Schultz didn't create the problems. I can tell you R.J. Sigurdsson didn't create the problems. So when we came in, we had a multitude of coal companies that had launched a $14 billion lawsuit.
I don't care.
For canceling their leases. Now I know there's a lot of landowners in this room, and you know how I feel about property rights. I have been a property rights advocate since 1997, and that is why we changed our Bill of Rights to say that if anyone has their property taken from them for public use, they would get full, fair, and timely compensation. That applies just as much to surface landowners as it does to subsurface landowners. And so that's the situation we inherited. That is the problem my energy minister and my environment minister have been trying to solve. If we do nothing, then we are told we'll likely lose those cases and have to pay 14. It would be $14 billion of payments. So what we're trying to do is to try to find a common ground, a way that certain projects can go ahead with a responsible, modernized policy using best practices, and where hopefully we can settle with some of the other companies to take those rights out of use so that those lands never get developed. That's the process we're in right now. And I suspect many of those proposed mines are not going to go ahead, and that those leases will be returned to the Crown for some future government to make a decision on. But we have to go through that process. However, we had I wasn't here, guys. Like, I'm brand new. I've just been 2.5 years in.
Yeah,
Okay.
that did not go well.
You can tell that Danielle is not used to that kind of pushback.
No,
You could see it in her face.
she didn't know how to deal with the fact that people didn't like her or what she had to say.
But you know what she did, right? Right?
Mm.
Like the automaton that she is. She just kept pressing forward. In this room, you have about 500 people. Right? This is taking place in Fort Macleod, Alberta. You got about 500 people in there,
Mm.
dressed in cowboy hats, belt buckles, jeans, telling you,
Mhm.
no, 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 no. And what's she doing? She keeps on trying to jump on them and climb up on top of them. No doesn't mean no
Yeah.
to her.
It,
Just
well,
means try harder.
she
Keep
has to get
pushing.
her Australian billionaire coal miner friend the money he wants.
Yes. So She says, if we are not prepared to look and find middle ground solutions to allow for industries to proceed while reducing our environmental footprint, you're going to find that different industries become the next on the hit list. Banning industries is just not something we are going to do. And the renewables sector laughed.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she did just that.
All right. She's sitting there and she's talking, oh, well, we got a $14 billion lawsuit if we don't do that. You know how I am about property rights. And it's like, yeah, okay, let's say that was true, because I would like to have a fact check on that, first of all,
Mhm.
because anything coming out of her mouth requires a fact check. But let's say that was true. So you go ahead with that mining, and then the waterways get polluted, and then there's a whole bunch of how much damage is that? I'm pretty sure it's gonna be way more than $14 billion, boo boo kitty.
Oh, a tremendous amount more, because look how many orphaned wells there are.
Mhm.
Or are they orphaned or abandoned? I guess they're orphaned, yeah, because if they're abandoned, the government can order them to go in and clean them up. But when they're orphaned, they can't order them because there's the way the wording works in the agreements or something. So
Exactly. And, somebody could go in and just change that law, but nobody does, right? So she's basically saying, well, my hands are tied. She of the move fast and break things and force things to happen on this for some reason is just completely powerless and impotent. I'm trying to save us from being sued for $14 billion, regardless of the future cost.
well,
It's
didn't,
dumb.
didn't she piss away $1 billion in healthcare issues? That's a whole other story. We
It's a
can
whole other story.
look at. Yeah, we can
Um,
look at that at another date.
the people, okay, people are not stupid.
No.
And she's literally insulting their intelligence. But again, you notice, right? This calm schoolmarm. Listen, it just has to be this way. You're being so unreasonable. I mean, this is the only reasonable play to go. I support property rights. Well, that means supporting the property rights of the billionaires who want to do something on their land that will poison you all.
Won't somebody
And
think of the billionaires?
because you can't. It's like, I think what the residents in that room are trying to tell you is $14 billion or not, that's the price we're prepared to pay to not have our water poisoned. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. You
But
see, once
nevertheless,
you
she persists.
and once you poison your water supply, and remember, Alberta doesn't have a lot of water. It just doesn't. I think there's 2 hydropower plants in the whole province, and they don't generate a lot.
So that happened. Prior to that, while she was outside, look at this moment. And uh, before, when you see what she does and what she turns around and says to the people there, think of the gall it takes for her to ask for that which she is asking for, considering what she is doing to them.
Scientists did say that any coal mining in Poisonous Lake.
We're relying on you to protect our headwaters.
Yeah, I'd like to finish my interviews here.
We're relying on you.
No, we're having a town hall, and we're happy to hear you.
Oh, sorry, that's a glitch in the matrix.
Right.
For some reason, it just stopped. Let me just see.
Having a town hall, and we're happy to hear you.
That's this video. I don't know what's going on with it. I'll come back to that. I'll see if I can get it to load properly.
So she's basically sitting there. She's for those who are listening at home, answering questions from the media, and they got people behind her going, and not like super loud, but loud enough. No, 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 no. And she turns around, says, it's like, could you just let me do this interview, please? No. Why the fuck would they?
Yeah.
And again, well, listen, we're going to have a town hall. I'm going to hear you. Well, we just saw how she was hearing people in that town hall, right? So that was a fucking lie.
If she doesn't hear what she wants to hear, she's not going to listen to you, period.
So that was a fucking lie.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's sitting there, and this goes on and says, and they're going, no, says, I'm just asking for a little courtesy. So she puts herself in the victim role because the cameras are rolling. Look at all these people, how they're being so unreasonable. They just won't let me give my interview. It's like, pardon me. Do we have it here? I'm going to
try it again.
Call, and we're happy to hear you.
Yeah, it's not working. I don't know what's going on with the video.
We're happy to hear you. Like this, I'm just asking for a little courtesy so I can finish my interview. Could I have that, please? Could I have that, please? Please, could I have that? Just a little courtesy. A little courtesy is all I'm asking for. Why would you give me that courtesy? Yeah, why would they not give you the courtesy of standing in front of a camera with a microphone to gaslight the rest of the province without having any pushback on it? Why do you think you are entitled to the courtesy of lying on camera without people behind you calling you exactly what you are, a liar?
To hear you, but I'm just having an interview here. I just love it for you to let me finish my interview.
We said no. Period. No, period.
I allowed you to be interviewed without interrupting your interviews. You guys got interviewed without me interrupting your interviews. I'm just asking to be able for the same courtesy. I'm looking for a little bit of courtesy. That's all. Yeah, just looking for some courtesy. I just have a couple more questions to answer here.
There's a cost to that. It's called treason.
But she got them to quiet down. She got them to quiet. She does not deserve the courtesy she requests. I didn't interrupt you when you're. Well, you don't have to because you have a bulldozer. Just run all over them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to interrupt them, Boo Boo Kitty. You just have to sit in front of a mic and let them scream and go, well, we're doing it anyway. So fuck all y'all. Why are you upset that I told you all to go fuck yourselves? You're so unreasonable. So I don't understand why it is you won't just let me get a clean clip of myself lying to people. Why? You're so rude. Look, real tears. I mean, this woman.
Look, I'm gonna both sides.
This is sociopathic behavior. I just want you to know what you just saw right there. That is a sociopath at work.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And I don't blame the people for doing what they did. Her behavior, though, was pretty bad when you consider how many times that was done to the prime minister, and he just continued to talk to the person interviewing him instead of turning around and chastising them. The former prime minister. People would stand there and scream shit at him, and he just, no, I'm not going to pay attention to you because I'm going to pay attention to this person here. And instead of turning around and scolding people, he just carried on with the interview.
Because she's going to go to some other town hall at some point when someplace is a little friendlier to her. Says, oh, I know you saw that display. I mean, gee, could you believe? Some people are just so emotional.
Yeah.
They're letting their emotions get the best of them, and they're just not thinking of the dollars and cents of it. They want to drink water.
And be able
dumbass.
to feed their fields and their animals, their livestock. They want to be able to give them safe, clean drinking water. Maybe she'll ask us to start drinking brandy. You know what that's from, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah. Sounds like it might be time because apparently all it takes is $500 and someone with a little gumption to propose on a referendum.
Yeah.
Propose a referendum. Why does some good citizen from Alberta? I'm sure if you contact Mr. Dave Gray, he would certainly, or Mr. Lukasik would certainly be happy to help you, guide you through the process of starting a citizen referendum on whether or not we should disallow that type of coal mining. Neil Smith has made it very clear that she is willing to bend over backwards to make referenda happen. Right? Because if she doesn't, then all of a sudden she finds herself in yet another pritzel, having to answer, why is it that you are so eager to make a referendum happen for people who would like to separate, but you're not eager to make a referendum happen for people whose livelihoods and lives depend on clean water? Yeah, thought you wouldn't have an answer, Danielle.
Well,
It's,
clean water
of
doesn't
course,
make
she
a
would have an
billionaire.
answer, but
The clean water doesn't make a billionaire rich, unless you're Nestle and you buy all the water and then sell it. I think that has changed though in the province of Ontario, if memory serves.
yeah, but I mean, again, just like the royalties on oil, which are dirt cheap, the royalties on water is like, why are you like really?
Yeah, yeah.
It's again, we could if we were charging actually something that wasn't laughable, that wasn't nominal, well, just to say we're making you pay for it, just to say we're not giving it away, wink.
Yeah.
I guess trust me, nobody would be asking the questions. Where are we going to find the extra $9 billion for defense? We'd have it if we actually charged a reasonable price for the stuff that we pull out of the ground and let other people take and resell to us.
At a higher price. What?
Or if we just did it ourselves.
Well, don't we do that with hydro? Sell it to New York State and then buy it back at sell it at a lower price than what we sell it to ourselves for, right? So what people pay in the province of Ontario and Quebec for hydro is more than what we sell it to the state of New York for, and what New York doesn't use, they sell back to us.
Yay. Then Danielle has a couple of other things going on. If you have the first image.
Oh yeah, I do, and this is a doozy, folks.
From the breakdown.
Our friend Nate at the breakdown, he posted a couple of tweets here. So the first one, you got to think, with Danny cosplaying host to the world, she's got to have some comms folk desperately hoping the screenshots of the former CEO's affidavit don't get circulating in a big way. Let's just click on this one, shall we? From the sworn affidavit by the former AHS CEO, Athena Matsopoulos, in which he states the value of the contracts afforded to MH Care were almost $1 billion, in that Jitendra Prasad was consolidating power and control over the contracts.
Now, if you are looking at this particular tweet here, in this particular section, because there's a little transcription here, she's speaking to someone named Mr. Romano. And if you look here, Mr. Grizzly, why don't you read Mr. Romano and I will read Athana here.
Okay, go ahead.
Welcome to Beaver Peace Theta. JP wrote the contract for the kids' Tylenol himself. He wrote it. He never reviewed it with contract law. There is absolutely no provision to protect AHS in that contract. And Sam Raish has $50 million that he's continued to sit on. I've been asking about what we're doing to get full value from that money. I started asking in the spring every question ever about MH Care and Tylenol always went to JP. He was like the expert, from what we can tell, because now we've got all of his emails because we retrieved all of his records and everything. It appears as though everything he told me was a lie.
Holy Jesus. And so this is the thing that freaks me out, eh? I definitely know Marshall was involved on that side, which, then makes me wonder about his integrity or standing on anything else. If I know he thought that it was almost his idea. Oh my God, eh? So it potentially does point over.
When I first started this investigation, I got a call from Marshall and he said, why aren't these contracts for these charter surgical facilities moving? Why are you sitting on them?
Wow.
And I said, Marshall, I'm doing a review. There's some very concerning things and I'm not going to get into the details. It wouldn't be appropriate. And he said, I don't think you know who you're dealing with. These are serious people. And I said, I'm a serious person too, Marshall. And he said, well, they need to get their financing in order. And I said, Marshall, these people have told our negotiators that they don't need financing. They've bragged about it. And Marshall laughed at me and he said, not traditional financing.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean,
holy Jesus.
So I hope somebody was in the room with Mr. Romano to pick him off the floor.
Yeah. Because that's
this not good. So what has happened is that Athana Matsopoulos has filed her affidavit to go along with the initial statement of claim. So we will be looking at that because our good friend Nate we asked him, and he was kind enough to send it to us.
Yeah, she's going to burn it all down.
Yeah. Now there is some other activity going on the margins that's trying to discredit her as well, claiming that she has a past of some kind.
Okay.
Listen, everybody has a past.
Yeah, everyone.
Regardless of past, however, in this type of case, because listen, right? We've all heard of mob cases. You have informants that are not the most savory people, right? And if what they say can be corroborated and checks out, it still counts. So, regardless of whatever her past may or may not be, and I have no clue what anybody's talking about when they talk about that anyway, but whatever it may be, the point is that in this specific case, with the allegations that she is making, is there documentation to support it? And if there is, her past is freaking irrelevant.
Yeah.
Are there documents? Do they support what it is she is claiming? And let's not forget, there was also a whole board that saw this and said, yeah, you need to bring this up. And it got fired too. Everybody keeps on forgetting to mention that the board was fired too. And then they brought in a second board, one that one would assume would be more friendly to Danielle. Because remember that talk, she says, I just got here. We just inherited this. I've only been here 2 years. And the audience said, yeah, BS to that. So she doesn't get to use that anymore as an excuse.
No.
This here, if the documents are there and the documents corroborate what it is she's being saying, she could be Mother Teresa or she could be, who knows? I'm trying to think of a terrible person that's not not genocidal. What's in the documents? Does it support the claims? If it does, it's all that matters. It's all that matters. The rest is noise. So we'll see what happens with that. But she's got that going on. And then over the past couple of days, she's made a couple of interesting moves. This here has some of them illustrated here by Mr. David Shepard, who is an MLA.
Yes.
And an MLA that I am trying to secure as a guest on our show to find out what's happening. And it seems that Danielle Smith has decided that, Mr. Grizzly,
Alberta government to start charging residents for COVID-19 shots this fall. From Edmonton, Alberta's government announced Friday residents who are not immunocompromised or on social programs will soon have to pay to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
Oh, and what else?
Well, let's just see here while I load up that page. We got some interesting stuff. Alberta government increases prescription costs for seniors.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, it seems that Danielle Smith is going to increase the cost of filling a prescription by $1 a year every year for the next 10 years. And not just for seniors, for everyone, really. So, of course, it's because we need the money because it's so expensive. And then let's not forget that dear Danielle also decided for people receiving the Canada Disability Benefit. Remember when we had that conversation with Mr. Gray, stating he stated that well, she's just and well, it's a very interesting thing that's happening because right now you have federal MPs. If you see the visual here, hold on, I might have to make it a little bigger. But this is an MP who is named Stephanie Kuzi, representing in Alberta, who is promoting here the Canada Disability Benefit. Cannot seem to make it bigger, unfortunately. Just too bad. Maybe hold on. Let's try that again. This is really weird. Okay, let's try that one more time. No, it just will not get bigger. But she says applications for the Canada Disability Benefit open on June 20th. This benefit will provide direct financial support to eligible Canadian residents with disabilities who are between 18 and 64 years old. To find out if you qualify and to get more information on how to apply, visit, and then there's the website, or call 1-833-486-3007. Problem is that nowhere in that advertisement is she telling her constituents that Danielle Smith is clawing it back 100% under the theoretical threat of provincial benefit eligibility review for non-application. Yes, you see, because according to the according to the government of Alberta, if you have to apply for every potential source of income, and if you don't, there's nothing out there that says that if you don't apply for the benefit that you'll have your eligibility rescinded or reviewed. But the law does say you do have to apply for every single thing that's available to you, and that is a thing that's available to you. And the government of Alberta is strongly encouraging the people who are disabled, I guess, to put in hours to understand the forms and fill them in, also that the government of Alberta can get the money.
Yeah.
Not you. Because apparently the government of Alberta says that they have the highest disability support payments, about like $1,901 a month.
So
And
that
therefore, nothing has happened to people who are disabled over the last 5 or 6 years, and they don't deserve more because they get too much already.
I'm going to bite my tongue about my thoughts and feelings about this because I might get really vulgar and say something that I can't take back. So I'm just going to bite my tongue on this. But I think that gives you an idea of what I'm feeling when it comes to let's punch down on those who cannot punch back.
And now with the COVID vaccine thing, because Danielle Smith, in addition to being a premier and an expert on oil and an expert on everything else, also appears to be an expert on vaccinology. Basic said, I think it's because it doesn't work particularly well, if you want the truth, Smith said. Okay. And then Canada laughed because if you want the truth, Boo Boo Kitty is not the first person to whom we go to get it. Just under 14% of Alberta's $4.8 million residents got vaccinated for the virus last season. It's those that are healthy that choose to do it because they've talked to their doctors. Those are the ones that will have a little bit of a lesser priority, she said. But Smith's government will still pay for some to get the shots, including those who have compromised immune systems or are on social programs, and seniors in congregate setting will also be covered. So if you put those two statements for her together, well, I think it's because it doesn't work particularly well if you want the truth, so we don't want to pay for it. But I guess it's good enough for those who have compromised immune systems or on social programs or seniors living in a congregate setting, even though it doesn't work particularly well.
I really want to pull her out of the legislature and send her just a few blocks away to the ice district, but not in the ice district, behind the ice district. Large encampment. Hang on. No, hear me out. Wait a minute. You don't know what I'm going to say. Don't cut me off. Make her spend some time with the homeless population of Edmonton, people who are hand to mouth every day and suffer every day, so she can understand what it's like when you have next to nothing. Because there's a lot of people that live there that are on disability and live in tents and have a P.O. box to get their check. I want her to spend time with those people so she can get away from her insulated life that she has and see, oh, I'm really hurting people. But she doesn't care, and she never will, because that's who she is. She's insulated and isolated and doesn't give a damn about those who are lesser than her, and she sees them as lesser as her, or lesser than her. It's as simple as that. I'm not wishing any pain or suffering on her. I want her to experience what it's really like. I want her to get in the trenches and see what people go through on a daily basis. And then maybe then she'd have a change of heart, but somehow I doubt it because some billionaire would come along and say, I need that money to build a larger coal mine.
Hmm. And then Danielle made an appearance on Rosemary Barton Live. Got a little interview to show. And again, the gall of her asking the protesters, will you just please shut up so I can get a clean clip of myself lying? Thank you. I would like that courtesy. When it comes to being on Team Canada, she had some thoughts about that. And when it comes to, is it going to be a give and take relationship?
Mm.
Take a look, listen to this interview, and let me know if you think that Danielle Smith is really on Team Canada, or she thinks that Team Canada is something that she's on, so long as she doesn't have to give anything really, and everything has to be given to her.
From Alberta to the Port of Churchill, because that does seem potentially more likely. I don't know if it would be bitumen or it would be LNG or what would be there. But the other thing that I am hearing from Ottawa, whether it be Minister Hodgson or others, is that this isn't just about pipelines. So what else would be helpful to Alberta if you can't get there with a pipeline? And I understand that's your priority. What other things are you willing or interested in doing?
Well, I think we have to remember just how valuable a bitumen pipeline would be. We'd be talking about a million barrels a day in egress. And if you look at today's prices, that's about $20 billion a year in annual revenue year after year, going to markets that want our product, Japan, Korea, China, India. It makes a lot of sense for us to look at that. And so I don't think there's going to be any national project that is going to have that considerable amount of value.
What about the Port of Churchill, though? What could you get there, and how could you use that? Given that, as you've said, it seems easier to do. There's more consensus starting to be built around that idea.
I think it's both. I mean, I can make the same arguments going the other way as well. One of the advantages that we'd have of going to Churchill is that then, especially if you build icebreakers, you can go up and over and start feeding the East Coast refineries as well as get your product into Europe, which is desperate for it. They want to wean themselves off supply from Iran. They want to wean themselves off supply from Russia. And so if we can find a way to get both bitumen and natural gas to them, I think that is going to help with their security. Plus, it allows for us to look at ways to build interties.
That's not all the response, is it?
No, I was trying to send you a message saying I've got timelines that seem to be askew. Check your messages there in the private chat because the timelines overlap. That's why I thought I'd close it there because I was like, well, we've gone past the timeline for the first clips, and I'm not sure where the second one starts.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to the beginning of it then, 10:48.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I asked, because you had the second clip starting at 10:48, which would take it right through.
One was an excerpt specifically, and the one was the full interview.
Okay, that's why
that was my bad.
Yeah, you understand my confusion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, give me a sec here. I'll bring this up, and while that's playing, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee because this is about a 10-minute clip, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just about 10 minutes, just under 10 minutes. Give me a sec here, and here we.
Rosemary, have a great day.
Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith will be greeting G7 leaders when they arrive in her province later. She's hoping to get some bilateral meetings of her own, but she is also focused on that One Canadian Economy Act that we were just talking about with Minister LeBlanc. The new legislation aims to cut trade barriers and speed up those nation-building infrastructure projects, energy projects, and pipelines, potentially. I spoke to Premier Smith earlier. Premier Smith, nice of you to make the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Lots to talk to you about. I'm going to start with some of the things around the nation-building project, C5, that piece of legislation. Last week, the Prime Minister said that he does believe that there needs to be a consensus built between provinces and communities to get projects going. Do you think that a province has the right to say no to a proposed project? How do you interpret how they're going to get to a yes?
Well, I would hope that what would happen is that we would identify whatever legitimate concerns that a province might have and then work through them. I know, for instance, the project that I'm interested in seeing built is a new pipeline, a bitumen pipeline to the northwest BC coast. Yeah. And there were problems in the past. I think that there has to obviously be a lot of Indigenous consultation and equity ownership right from the outset so that we can get the right route. And the other part, of course, is looking at ways that we can decarbonize the production. We've got a proposal from the Pathways group of companies, which are our biggest oil sands companies, so that we can have a lower carbon emission barrel going through that pipeline. And so those are the ways that I'm looking at how we can get to yes. I think the days of an engineer taking a ruler, putting it on a map and drawing a line are over. Some of this is going to require some negotiation.
So BC, as you well know, and as I'm sure viewers know, have said no, they don't want another pipeline through their province. You have said that you think you can convince the Premier. What would you put on the table to try and convince him?
Well, it's Team Canada or it's not. And I think that this is one of the issues that we face for a lot of years, is that it's always been easier for Alberta to build north-south than to build east-west. And I think that that's not where our Canadians are right now. With the threat of Donald Trump and the tariffs and the unreliability of the U.S. as a trading partner, I think that everyone is looking for ways that we can find projects where we can support each other. I would hope that at some point we'd have Premier Eby move to the same approach that we've seen with Wabkanu in Manitoba. I think he's got the highest popularity ratings of any premier, and he is also taking some challenging positions. I mean, he has got the first gold mine that has been approved in his province in 15 years. He has also openly said, as he develops out Churchill, that he includes in oil and gas pipelines as part of that economic corridor. So I think that that's the kind of spirit that that Canadians are expecting, and I hope that we can get Premier Eby there as well.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that route from Alberta to the Port of Churchill, because that does seem potentially more likely. I don't know if it would be bitumen or it would be LNG or what would be there. But the other thing that I am hearing from Ottawa, whether it be Minister Hodgson or others, is that this isn't just about pipelines. So what else would be helpful to Alberta if you can't get there with a pipeline? And I understand that's your priority. What other things are you willing or interested in doing?
Well, I think we have to remember just how valuable a bitumen pipeline would be. We'd be talking about a million barrels a day in egress. And if you look at today's prices, that's about $20 billion a year in annual revenue year after year, going to markets that want our product, Japan, Korea, China, India. It makes a lot of sense for us to look at that. And so I don't think there's going to be any national project that is going to have that considerable amount of value.
What about the Port of Churchill, though? What could you get there, and how could you use that? Given that, as you've said, it seems easier to do. There's more consensus starting to be built around that idea.
I think it's both. I mean, I can make the same arguments going the other way as well. One of the advantages that we'd have of going to Churchill is that then, especially if you build icebreakers, you can go up and over and start feeding the East Coast refineries, as well as get your product into Europe, which is desperate for it. They want to wean themselves off supply from Iran. They want to wean themselves off supply from Russia. And so if we can find a way to get both bitumen and natural gas to them, I think that is going to help with their security. Plus, it allows for us to look at ways to build interties in our transmission system so that we can bring hydro from Manitoba, nuclear from Saskatchewan, connect with British Columbia, and then be also able to decarbonize our power grid even further and provide reliability to each other.
You and Minister Hodgson are using this phrase "grand bargain," and I wonder what that means for you. What is that? Making compromises? Is that being interested in dealing with emissions in a different way? What does that mean to you? That phrase?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, the original Northern Gateway project was going to terminate in Kitimat, and I watched the video that showed that there's a lot to navigate in that Douglas Channel and a lot of concern from an environmental point of view. So being willing to say, is there a better port, a better terminal point? That's one. But also talking about the Pathways project in tandem, because right now, if you're going to invest $10 to $20 billion in carbon capture, as well as decarbonizing the power, as well as direct air capture. That's all just cost on the existing production. Yep. But if you have that additional cost, but then you have additional source of revenue, it makes it a whole lot easier to do those projects together. So that's what we're hoping in the grand bargain, is that we can get both.
Would a grand bargain, though, Premier, also include you saying to the federal government, it's okay, C-69 can stay there if you're committing to helping me get more oil to market?
I like the idea of this 2-year time window. I mean, I think the fact that he wants to have a 2 years to yes timeframe is a demonstration that he knows the federal process is broken, because otherwise he'd say C69 is perfectly fine and let's try to navigate through it. So what I hope would happen is that the projects that do make that national list and the 2-year fast track, that becomes a way for us to have a parallel track to talk about how we need to change and revise the other bills in order to improve investor confidence. I don't look at it as success if the federal government has to build every single project that would otherwise be built by the private sector, because the process is so cumbersome that no private sector investment wants to invest. That to me would be a failure. And so I think part of his job is to create an investment climate that tells the investor community, welcome back to Canada, because it hasn't done that for the last 10 years. We've lost, we estimate, somewhere in the order of $500 billion worth of investment. We want to bring some of that back, and it's going to require law changes to make it happen.
But that didn't sound like you would be unwilling to accept the fact that some of the things that are in place might stay in place, even if it means that other projects get approved. Because certainly Minister Hodgson seems to suggest that C69 is staying, but that doesn't mean that they will be inflexible in terms of approving things.
Let's be practical. The federal government has jurisdiction for linear projects that go cross-border, that whether it's pipeline or whether it's transmission lines.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you need to do an intersectionality analysis of every single bill? Like there's measures that they've put into the bill that are not technical, that are ideological, and that don't really have any measurables around them and create confusion. So that's part of the reason why C69 needs to be substantially revised. They also have a large portion of it struck down because they don't have the right to micromanage the projects that are within a jurisdiction, intra-provincial. And so they had a massive overreach on that front. So I think it needs to be substantially revised, and I hope that we're able to get there over the next couple of years, because 2 years to yes is pretty ambitious. I think the industry would like to see it faster than that, but we've got to keep up with the Americans, and they're changing their regulatory processes to be that fast as well. And if we don't keep up, we're going to lose this window of investment.
Yeah. So that was the entire thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you will notice in that interview, she started with, "It's Team Canada or it's not," when referring to David Eby, when she has been the one that's been refusing to lift a finger to help, and she, made the decision to allow U.S. alcohol back on shelves, and then Scott Moe went ahead and did the same. Now Scott Moe went beyond that, and now there's like nothing from Saskatchewan whatsoever. But it's Team Canada or it's not, she says with a straight face. The same straight face with which she said, well, we have the worst living conditions in the world here in Alberta.
Yeah. Terrible. Absolutely hideous working.
Uganda called. Then Rosemary Barton asks her, what other things are you willing to consider? Like, if you can't get oil, right? There must be some other projects. Early in the interview, she says, well, the thing I'm here for, the thing, not the things, the thing. And she answers that question with, hey, let me sell you on the case for oil again. So basically the answer to the question is, what other things do you think that this could help you with? It's nothing. She has no other project.
Yeah.
She has one project and one project only when we're talking about projects of national interest, and that's oil pipelines.
That's
Not even natural gas price pipelines, bitumen pipelines specifically.
Mhm.
That's it. Nothing about electricity, let's say, to bring more electricity from other provinces into Alberta because she's so concerned about baseload. Nothing about, assuming that there's mining, assuming that there's agriculture. Grains need to travel, get to port and all kinds. Nope, none of that. No, any of the other business sectors operating in all of Alberta. Nothing. Just bitumen. That's it.
Well, that's all that matters, right? According to her.
Then, what concessions are you willing to make? Oh, well, I saw that, it could be environmentally difficult in Kitimat. I'm willing to consider it coming out of somewhere else in BC, so long as I get my bitumen pipeline. Wow,
Mhm.
that's a big concession. And with the Pathways Project, the Pathways Project with which you want people to build that bitumen pipeline allegedly to finance because you're not willing to go into that sovereign wealth fund and make it happen yourself.
No, the Heritage Fund, we can't.
Yeah. So again, nothing. And then, of course, then she goes up, had all this stuff been done before, we wouldn't have lost $500 billion of investment. Well, some of that you let go by canceling renewables, right?
Well, she wants us to pay for infrastructure projects in the province that we don't get to benefit from, but billionaires do.
Yeah. And then, of course, she's like, well, do you really need an intersectionality analysis? You know what that's code for, right?
Mm,
Can't we just say fuck you to the First Nations?
it's basically
Where's the major intersection on an intersectionality analysis with oil? Is it a feminist thing? Probably not. Right? It's probably not a gender lens that she's talking about here when she's talking about intersectionality.
Mhm.
She's talking about where the pipeline seems to intersect with other people's lands. Do we really need to analyze that? Really? Can't we just skip over that part? Can't y'all just roll over and make it easy for me? While I put my hands behind my head and my heels up on my desk
Mhm.
and pat myself on the back. What a great economic manager I am because I can find people to pull stuff out of the ground and ship it somewhere else and do nothing more.
You just happen to be lucky enough to be born in that part of the country. But,
She is a piece of work. She is a total piece of work. And she opens that by saying you're either Team Canada or you're not, right?
classic.
Gimme, 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 me, 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 you, me,
Yeah.
Premier, me, 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 me.
I have somebody who crawled up right beside me here. Letting me know, Daddy, it's almost time. It's almost time. She knows when, she's like, oh, it's almost time. She will do that. She'll crawl up beside me knowing full well it's almost 8:30 and then it's time to go. She's a smart little gal.
I see this comment here. If we are going to call everyone who's manipulative a sociopath, that seems like a dangerous path. You can be a narcissist and not a psychopath. Yeah, that's true. But when you consistently show a record throughout your entire lifetime, like, hey, smoking is good for you, and you all don't need vaccines, and it's okay to poison the water. Yeah, at some point, it's a sociopath.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
sociopath.
that's legitimately the thing with her.
Yes, because clearly we're not calling everybody who's manipulative a sociopath.
No.
But she is one.
Yes.
She does not seem to care whether or not people die. She does not seem to care about whether people choke on their water.
Well,
That's sociopathic. That's not just manipulative. Because she's manipulative, yes, but the consequences of her manipulation lead to people dying or getting ill.
Mhm.
That's sociopathic. And she doesn't care.
Well, this statement here from Cassie Lake is true. Wab Kinew is the only progressive conservative Canadian politics at the moment, and he represents the NDP. Bonnie Critchley, running as an independent in Alberta, we had her interviewed last week, is also a progressive conservative, very much a progressive centrist. And I hope she wins. I really do. But she's not in politics yet. Maybe she'll get there. I think she'd be a great MP. That's my opinion. Just before I go, though, I wanted you had sent me a couple of photos here of Danny greeting people.
Yes.
So I'll share these. This is, of course, compare and contrast how she greets the PM versus the POTUS. Then look at her face contorts when she's no longer the center of attention and must watch others get some. So there she is, greeting Prime Minister Mark Carney. And
clasped hands, of course.
Carney's wife, yeah.
All the warmth of a cactus.
And then greeting the president, where she's just making googly eyes at him. Mm-hmm. She's kind of gushing. And now that she's no longer the center of attention.
Listen, if Alberta was going to send its national Walmart greeter,
Okay, that was good. I didn't see that one coming. That was good. That's good. I like that.
could they possibly send someone who doesn't greet people with clasped hands and crinkled up nose and traditional sourpuss,
Mm.
perhaps? It's a province of over 4 million people, maybe even 5.
It's at 5 now. They just
Surely
tracked it.
there's someone in the province who cannot look like she's just got, oh my God, instant diarrhea face to greet them. Maybe. Maybe somebody with some people skills. Perhaps.
Well,
I'm not
I think
impressed.
you're
with
asking a lot. There you
it.
go.
Not
Current,
impressed.
Alberta surpassed the 5 million population mark a few weeks ago. 5,012,266 currently in the province of Alberta. And Ontario is now 16,248,000. Canada is currently 41,687,000. We're not going to hit 42 million by Canada Day, obviously.
Indeed.
Okay, I do have to go.
All right, sir.
This thing is starting to get up now. She's like, okay, come on. So thanks for coming out, Kits and Cubs. I appreciate you. Apologize for my poor state of mind as my mental health is suffering because of my physical health right now. I will endeavor to do better, but I can't promise that I will. When one is suffering, one has a hard time keeping a lid on one's emotions, as I'm sure you all are well aware. So I'm going to try and be better at this, but some days I just don't have it. And today is one of those days. So hopefully tomorrow will be different. I may be able to do a show tonight on the ASMR channel if I'm feeling a little bit better, but time will tell. Until then, thanks for coming out. Appreciate each and every one of you. Take care.
All right. See ya. All right, Kits and Cubs. So that was the Danielle section of the show. Of course, the big thing going on right now, at least in Canada, because there's still lots of big stuff going on in the world, and we haven't hit that yet, is the G7 meeting. Okay. Those final images there is Danielle Smith, of course, at the airport greeting the dignitaries, the ones that have arrived yesterday. And there were other people in line, as mentioned. The mayor of Calgary was there. There was an Indigenous chief, I should say, there. Pardon my language, that just came out. That word should never come out of my mouth in that sense. Much apologies. Indigenous chief there as well. Said PR buzz with some dignitaries that had arrived and guests that had arrived earlier. But everything is getting started in earnest today. Right? The first meetings will take place today, the meeting between the core G7 group. And it's interesting to note that while the G7 is still a very important global meeting, it is in some ways decreasing in importance, which is probably one of the reasons for which Paul Martin established the G20 in the first place. If some people don't remember, when he is actually a Canadian creation and contribution to the world. But the G7, about 30 years ago, the countries of the G7 accounted for about 63% of global GDP. Now it's about 44%. Right? So they're not necessarily calling all the shots anymore. And our world is much more interconnected than it was 30 years ago as well. The BRICS nations, for example, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, represent 25% of global trade on their own. So there are significant other groupings taking place here. Also, it would seem that Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, even though they were invited, are not coming. One doesn't need to wonder why, considering what has been transpiring in that region of the world as Israel has decided to launch attacks on Iran, to which Iran responded because it needs to which Israel then responded, to which the United States apparently at first was saying, no, 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 we're not involved with this. Israel is acting unilaterally. But then we found out that the United States is helping intercept the Iranian response. People had a clue that some of this was coming because the President of the United States did issue an order before the end of the weekend to all non-necessary embassy staff and families and whatnot of embassy staff to come back home to the United States so that they would be caught in something if something terrible were to happen. So we know that the United States did know in advance. But Marco Rubio was trying to make a big point of saying, no, no, we have nothing to do with this. But we will help Israel defend itself if Iran responds. Now, of course, Trump was in negotiations with Iran again, and this is something, ironically, that Iran and Canada have in common about a deal that was signed that Trump ripped up and then said, hey, let's try and renegotiate a different one. Of course, the difference in our case is that the Iran deal wasn't also initially negotiated by Trump before he ripped it up. But they too are like, yeah, so we negotiate a new deal with you, and then what? You rip it up again? Because Iran has seen what Trump has done to Canada, I'm sure. Even though Iran and Canada are not particularly good friends, we don't have an embassy there anymore, thanks to the conservatives who decided that it was better to not have any communication at all. And somehow we have not reestablished that because, of course, it would be, somebody decided, you know what, we have to be adults in the room, and we are going to have issues with Iran, so it's probably good to have somebody there so that when we do have issues, we have someone from Canada who can communicate directly rather than having to go through an intermediary. But of course, if anybody were to do that, it's like, oh my God, why are you trying to get close to Iran? So we can't have that tool that we would need to be as effective as we can be. So yeah, that's happening. So you could kind of understand why, considering what's going on in the region, that Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates would say, well, there's stuff exploding in the regions, people shooting at each other. So you know what, might not be a good time to leave home. So they will not be there. So we're getting to the G20 and G20. I keep on saying G20 because it is more like a G20. It's like G20. No, it's a G7. I know, but girl, have you seen the invitation list? So, those of us who are into the whole political strategy type thing, because we've been watching our prime minister very cleverly make a certain number of moves with a view to Trump-proof or de-risk, for lack of better words, the whole event. We remember all too well how Sir Taco of Orange pulled all the focus from a very successful summit the last time we hosted it in Charlevoix, Quebec. Coincidentally, also during a time he had already slapped us with steel and aluminum tariffs. And we remember how following the event, then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took some time to confirm that Canada was still pursuing retaliatory tariffs. And also rejecting the idea of putting a sunset clause into the trade deal, 5-year sunset clause, going, oh, hell no, we're not doing this every 5 years. That's a non-starter. And well, when Sir Taco of Orange got wind of the fact that Canada was still going forward on July 1st with retaliatory tariffs that had been planned, well then President of the United States had a little snit fit, calling the Prime Minister a whole bunch of names. Because apparently he did this while Trump was on a plane to Singapore, and how low it was of him, because slapping us with the tariffs in the first place wasn't low, right? And he showed that his signature on something meant nothing by pulling it from the official communique while he was in the air. And then the whole media narrative went to be how the whole thing blew up. Well, there will be no chance of that happening this time, as the Prime Minister of Canada has determined that even attempting said communique is not going to be happening. We are going to get a leader's statement, a chair's statement, so a statement from the Prime Minister himself as the chair of the G7, or at least the host of it. And, well, the chair as well, because it's a rotating chair and we have it. That's why we're hosting. And there are going to be individual nation statements resulting from, bilateral meetings and all that kind of stuff. And there are going to be specific topic statements, specific. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words here. There are going to be topic specific statements, which allegedly will also have at least one action item tied to it, in the spirit of Mark Carney wanting to get things done. So it's going to be different type of output. Now, of course, this is done with the full knowledge that there's absolutely no way that if we had one of those multi-page sort of communiques with a big, broad, sort of bland statement about something to which everybody could agree on with no necessarily action item following, and which nobody follows up on in the press asking, at the last G7 you said you do this, and where are you on that at some point during the year? That almost never happens. But if you promise that in order to improve trade between this and this, we will do this thing, then people can ask, well, where's this thing that you agreed to do? And it seems that overall unanimous consensus will not be required for the topic-specific statements. So if Donald Trump or somebody else wants to make a scene on a specific point of the negotiation, well, they can make that, but all the other ones will stand. It's kind of clever. It is kind of clever as a way of going. Now, in addition to that, the ever-expanding guest list, including the leaders of Ukraine, India, Indonesia, South Korea, Mexico, Brazil, Australia, South Africa, then Secretary General of NATO, the head of the European Commission, and the head of the European Council, was indeed about having all the major players at the table, especially given the sheer scale and sharpness of recent global shifts. But it was also a rather astute way to go about attempting to drown the POTUS in so much content and competing narratives that it wouldn't be worth his while to grandstand. Especially since he's still allegedly working on those 90 deals in 90 days, with fewer than 20 days to go until his self-imposed 4th of July deadline, recently extended-ish until the 8th. So far, he's over 70 days have gone and he's got 0. And now he's got, fewer than 20 days to get those 90 deals in 90 days with, what's going on in Iran with Israel, and then Gaza, and then protests at home. Suddenly he's got a lot on his plate that is requiring his attention. That means less time in the room being able to negotiate those 90 deals. So I'm not sure how it is he's going to meet his deadline, but tick-tock, Donnie. Unless you're going to have another problem, one of your own making again. In addition, so many players sitting at the, as again we like to refer, thanks to Bo and Bell of the Ranch, give them credit, the big international poker table at which everybody is cheating. So many players sitting at that table multiplies the opportunities for pull-asides and bilateral meetings, not to mention any chatter that's going to be happening at the dinners, all of which can generate their own narratives. It also multiplies the opportunities for other kinds of drama to surface, despite the best efforts of each participant's planning team to ensure there are essentially no surprises. Word on the tweet, as we reported, is also that Prime Minister Carney and the President of the United States have been engaging in many one-to-one exchanges since their Oval Office moment, and that the President of the United States has been enjoying getting so much attention from a global banking celebrity, because as we know, the current POTUS is fascinated by celebrity. Even the site that was chosen, Kananaskis, was chosen not only because, security-wise, it would be faster and more cost-effective to upgrade that which was left behind after we hosted the G7 there in 2002, than trying somewhere new, but also because its more remote location minimizes chances for the President of the United States to see in real time any protests against him, which seems to have proven to be an act of great foresight given how the world has just watched him respond to protests in his own backyard. He doesn't seem to much like protests. Incidentally, this may also be a benefit when it comes to a certain Prime Minister of India who is notably particularly touchy as it pertains to certain protests, but I digress. Yeah. It was all going very well in terms of pre-planning until Friday. All of a sudden, what's going on in Iran certainly will end up on the agenda somehow. So Sir Orange Cheeto Dust made sure that he could upend the agenda in a certain way. And then, well, we had all the protests in the United States and all the ICE action, and we'll get into that in a couple of seconds here. And then we had that wonderful military parade, that tremendous military parade, the bestest military parade ever, a military parade like no one has ever seen before. Military parade that made Vladimir Putin look at it and said, "Oh, sweetie, no, no, girl, no, just no." That military parade was lame in particular. And there was a whole bunch of stuff. There was images of military formation units not marching in lockstep. Everybody going like, why can't they march in lockstep? And anybody consider that perhaps that was maybe a form of protest? Maybe. Because apparently calls to the GI line, when they say, am I supposed to be doing this? Usually there's about 200 a month. They got 50 in one day. So there are people there that understand that what's going on is not cool. And it's particularly interesting because, if you look at a military parade in China or in Russia, that's way different than the one that was held there in the United States. Even Canada. When we had the king here, the ceremonial guard that went down Wellington Street with the RCMP on horseback and the Landau had more pomp, more pageantry, more uniformity than anything we saw there. There's some memes going around of like a tank, and you can hear all the squeaky wheels from the tank because there's not like a lot of people there. It was so terribly attended. And the protests were so well attended, and all of them were happening, of course, on his birthday. But of course, this wasn't about his birthday, right? It's about celebrating 250 years or so of the military. something. But yeah, it did not go well for him. And for a man who is so obsessed with crowd size, you can bet that his ego took a bruising, given that crowd size was broadcast broadcast live in HD or 4K all around the world. So yeah, like I said, surprised he didn't die of embarrassment or just decided he was not coming. That parade was so bad that Vladimir laughed in Putin. One of the signs from the protest that I couldn't help but love. By the way, just thought I'd throw that in there. If you're listening at home, it says, "No kings, yes queens." I had to. I couldn't help myself. So yeah, things are not going very well for Mr. Trump. This was another one here from the protest that was really good. You know it's bad when a straight white guy makes a sign. Oh, man, I tell you, there's there are lots of things on social media with a list or various compilation of the best signs from the protest, and it's really worth your time if you go check them out, because people are impressively creative and have great senses of humor, particularly in particularly dark times. Reportedly, Trump's inner circle is in a meltdown after the No King's Day protests drowned out his birthday parade in sheer volume, energy, and meaning. And he had a rusty tank squeaking by, and there's some memes of it. And there are people adding comments like the tank going, "I told y'all, I'm too old for this shit." Squeaky, 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 squeaky. Or the tank, "Oh, gee, did I shave my legs for this?" And someone responds, "Yeah, Melania thought the same thing." I'm just like, oh, damn. And then you had other moments like this one that were not caught live, maybe when it was happening, but have some interesting color and texture.
Are we close to seeing Mr. Kim here at the White House?
Could happen. I mean,
They talked about that yesterday
I would
with
have
Mike
him. Yeah,
Pompeo?
I think it's something that could happen. Yeah. Hey, he's the head of a country, and I mean, he is the strong head. Don't let anyone think anything different.
Right.
He speaks, and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same.
Well,
What? Did y'all hear that? Kim in North Korea, with whom he doesn't have much of a relationship anymore, because Kim found himself a real man in Vlad. When Kim speaks, the people stand up at attention. I want my people to do that for me. Let that sink in. I want my people to do that for me. When I talk, they snap up at attention. Are you effing kidding me? So yeah. Then something happened on Friday with regard to these protests and the ice raids and all that kind of stuff that really sent a chill down the spine of many, many people. There was a U.S. senator, I think his first name is Alex, last name Padilla. Should find out a little bit more here about him. Sorry. He's 52 years old. He's a United States Senator from California since 2021. He showed up at a press event, I believe, that was being delivered by Kristi Noem, who is the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. And it would seem that this was an event because he had showed up there, I guess, to ask questions that resulted in this happening to him. For those who are listening at home, it's a still of Senator Alex Padilla on the floor with 3 cops around him and another one standing, so 4, cuffing him, handcuffing him. He's a senator. But all that mattered in that moment was the color of his skin. He was brown, so they went to town. And this was the single most obvious and clear attempt to tell the masses, you had better obey in advance. Because the implied message in there is, listen here, you worms. We just took a United States senator, had him taken to the ground and cuffed for everyone to see. What do you think we have in store for you? You don't stand a chance. Submit. That was the message being sent by that. Well, turns out that is something that some people decided to interpret as, hey, it's open season. Because not too long after, 2 Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses were shot at their homes. 2 died and 2 survived. According to the news, just about 5 minutes ago, it seems, 5 minutes ago announced in the news, the main suspect in the case has been captured after a few days manhunt. I'm going to show an image here, a bit of a trigger warning, but it's the door. You can see the bullet holes there. Yeah. This is not good. Not good at all. So, yeah, Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman, who's the top House Democrat. If I'm not mistaken, I believe she was the Speaker of the House. Found a gunman coming out of her house. He exchanged fire with the officers and ran off. Hortman and her husband, Mark, were killed. And this here is the front door at the house of Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. They survived. They're recovering at the hospital. The senator's out of his final surgery, according to Governor Tim Walz. It says that he's moving towards recovery. But this person, and this will send a chill down the spines of people in Nova Scotia, apparently disguised himself as a police officer. And this at a time during the ICE raids in Los Angeles where certain people who are doing these raids are not showing up there dressed in traditional sort of officer uniforms, which probably could have made it easier for this guy to disguise himself. CNN senior national security analyst Julie Kayam says, I think that the idea, especially in the middle of the night, if a police officer comes to your home, I think most people will now worry about that. So yeah, a state senator and a state house representative, somebody tried to kill them, was successful in assassinating one and their spouse. 2 dead, 2 injured. Soon after, Senator Padilla was wrestled to the ground and cuffed. I don't like to be alarmist, but it seems that we are very quickly on the downslope from when the movie that we're watching switches from Idiocracy to The Purge. The suspect, because in this case, everybody is always first to rush, right? You got people, oh my God, the left is so violent. Well, it seems that the suspect sent a text message to one of the roommates. Apparently had 2 places of residence, and one place of residence had some roommates living there, and said, just letting you know that I probably might die tonight or something like that, and I'm sorry for all the mess I've caused, and I don't want to say anything else because you guys are not involved. But according to one of the roommate, the suspect is someone who did vote for Trump in the last election, anti-abortion. Apparently, nobody had any idea that this type of thing would happen, but it seems there was a hit list with 70 people and organizations on it, a manifesto, and many No Kings Rally signs found in his vehicle. I would assume that those are signs that he tore down. But yeah. It also happens, it would seem, that in the Minnesota state legislature, that the seats are such, the margin or the Democratic margin is slim enough that taking a few people out could switch the balance. So yeah, it's again, at this point, this type of stuff is speculation. But yes, there are 201 seats in the whole legislature, 67 senators, 134 representatives. The Senate political group had the Democrats 34-33. Take out a senator, 33-33, right? The House of Representatives, Republicans 67, Democrats 66. Take one out and become 67-65. Gives a little extra margin. Maybe that was at play. Maybe not. But this person, who we will not name, because I'm sure he will become famous enough on his own, or infamous enough on his own, yeah, decided that taking out elected officials was going to be a good move. So again, the leader of that nation, whose consistent, nonstop stochastic rhetoric probably lit the fuse for that event, is coming to town. Yeah, so all of a sudden, all these efforts by Prime Minister Mark Carney to try to de-risk and troubleshoot kind of met up with a combination of the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, along with a little Murphy's Law, and perhaps a soupçon of no good deed goes unpunished. And of course, for a twist of whimsy, throw in a recent report about the life of recent leader of a federal party, Mr. Singh, being threatened allegedly via the involvement of the government of one of the other event's guests. Uncomfortable, unhelpful, not to mention ridiculously and utterly, completely, unnecessarily tragic. De-risking is really tough. And we know how mercurial, for lack of a better word, the President of the United States is. So, it's like, oh shit, Felicia's coming to town, and girl, is she pissed. So, yeah, he's going to need to be micromanaged and contain something fierce, isn't he? Hopefully, someone laid it on super thick when he arrived, gave him access to all the ketchup and well done steaks his little heart could desire. Hopefully, he's been guaranteed 2 scoops of ice cream with every dessert. Maybe even, hopefully, someone got an interior decorator for wherever he's going to stay to add some extra gold wherever they can. Because perhaps if the toddler could be kept happy by being treated nicely, you never know. On the other hand, it's like lifelong terrible twos with this toddler. It never stops. We never get to sleep. What are the odds that this Fathermucker doesn't pull a stunt here because he needs to change the channel something desperately? And what better event to do it at than at a global event that everybody's watching? Because if he doesn't want the news of the United States to be again tonight about those shootings or about his parade that could have used Viagra or the world getting the answer to the question, what if you threw a party and nobody except for who was on your payroll came? Everybody else wanted to go to the cool kids party instead. And we know how IQ 47 hates it, just hates it, as the quote goes, when people laugh at him. And again, Vlad is chuckling at Putin. Yeah. Seems to be another opportunity to want to play tough guy because being seen as weak. And again, what better way than God at an event organized by his favorite punching bag, Canada. So despite all these people, all these egos, all these topics, all these subjects, the setting where he won't be able to see protests, the whatever else that they've put in place, despite everything that Mark Carney and Team Canada and the organizing team, the preparation team could have thought of to try and just soften this so that he could just leave here and everybody else can get everything done. Because let's not pretend that the other members of the G6 actually think that there's any real G7 going on here. Right? They know they're not here to get agreement with Trump or to reach agreement. That's why there's no communique. That's not going to happen. They're all here to try to get through this as best as possible, knowing that at some point he could do something. Well, now, expect he will do something. Because he either needs one of two things, and perhaps both would do him really well. A really sudden, sharp channel change, such so that you could get political whiplash, which means throwing another grenade somewhere, ruining somebody's life, ruining somebody else's event, making something that's not about him, only about him, primarily and only. That's his go-to. But the other way is that he might actually need some wins. Everybody's saying don't expect to get anything big from Donald Trump as a result of this. But if he comes here after having his ego so severely bruised, and Mark Carney is able to work some type of magic that he seems to have been working so far to make him feel special and liked and appreciated in some certain way, maybe he might be inclined to settle a thing or two while he's here. More inclined to settle a thing or two while he's here this time than he had been intending to do on Thursday. Because not only does he need to change the channel, but he needs to come back with a win of some kind that he can sell to his people. It opens the door for one of the other. Perhaps both. But maybe a little win of some kind for someone. Anyway, not necessarily a win for Canada, like a tearing down of some of the tariffs or whatnot, but he might sign on to something that he might not have been willing to sign on before, or something. But it's also pretty reasonable to expect that, oh yeah, girl is going to come and fuck shit up now. It's what he does. So hold on to your hats, kids and cubs, because this one, again, despite all the moves, and they're very clever moves and smart moves done by the Prime Minister in order to de-risk this event, just got blown up. And we have no idea what this guy is going to do. But I would bet my beaver tail that at some point he is going to cause some drama. She's going to make the choice. And it is a choice to feel slighted about something and make a big deal out of it. So until all of this stuff happened, until Friday, it would seem that more likely if there was going to be any news, big news, out of the summit, it would most likely come from either some of those pull-aside meetings or bilateral meetings or discussions at dinner. And then we would get the leader statement and the various statements with an action thing, and that would be it. But now, with all of these recent events, it's probably more likely that the news is going to come from Ronald Rumproast himself at some point. It's exhausting. But then again, that's the point, isn't it? Just beat us down. The beatings will continue until complicity and compliance improves. It's the world we're living here, under here, with this guy. So yeah, it's wait and see time here. And I'm sure that everybody is walking on eggshells now, just wondering when he is going to pop. Fortunately, if one could say fortunately, the fact that it was decided beforehand, no communique, might also be proof of foresight, because now he doesn't have anything grand or big to pull up out of. And here's the thing, by making that shift, it also changes the narrative around the G7, because the traditional narrative around the G7 is there's a communique. Will everybody sign it? If everybody signs it, it was a good G7. Despite the communique is usually a series of bland, very broad statements that don't necessarily get followed up upon. So how much of a success is it really? So in this case, a chair statement that does not involve Trump. And of course, all the various leaders who are here will probably have their own media availabilities with their own national press and international press, and there'll be other stuff with that. There will be a lot of content being created by other people that hopefully will be able to compete with whatever narrative that Donald Trump would like to impose upon the event. Hopefully. Hopefully, with the series of statements on various topics of concern, with, from who agreed and what it is that they've agreed to do about it, hopefully that can generate some chatter and some discussion. That will take up at least some of the oxygen away from whatever it is that he is going to probably attempt to do. The most surprising thing that would happen is that if he leaves this place without causing a scene, either while he's here or within the day or two after, some type of scene that involves punching us for something, or another of the G7 partners. Now, the other very, very clever thing that might be happening here, and might be happening regardless of this, and might be accelerated should Sir Taco of Orange decide to throw a complete temper tantrum at this event, would be that, remember when I said that the G7 represents 44% of the global economy and the BRICS nations represent 25%? Well, it just so happens that representatives of all the BRICS nations, except China and Russia, who are getting closer, with Russia probably becoming a vassal state of China, given how their economy is pretty much in the toilet. Wouldn't it be particularly clever if Mark Carney was able to convince the leaders of Brazil, South Africa, and India that, you know, you're emerging future powers and powers in your regions. And again, right over here is the big international high rollers table of poker players where everyone's cheating. Um, Russia's diminishing in power, and the United States is starting to diminish in influence, and the world is reorganizing very quickly. And maybe your future as members of BRICS countries being tied to Russia and China is not the best for your long term aspirations. Well, we over here are clearly losing the United States, as you can all obviously see. And I'm sure you all have your individual relationships with the United States that have been affected by his desire to reorient trade as well. Yes, I can understand why you were dealing with China and Russia to counter the influence of the United States. And all of us were in there with the United States. But given that we seem to be consciously decoupling, would you like to perhaps maybe start consciously decoupling from China and Russia too? Because the United States is screwing you over too. So I'm sure you guys want to get out from under them as well. And maybe all of us should work together. Wouldn't it be something if these were the first steps in laying the groundwork to get India, South Africa, and Brazil to think or consider at least, is your man treating you right? Because if not, honey, have we got a deal for you? People are realigning very quickly following what Donald Trump has done. There's this video going around of 7 big deals that Canada has signed, all worth at least $1 billion or more with various nations since all of this is happening. And it started under Prime Minister Trudeau when the new Chancellor of Germany came to Newfoundland, Labrador, and started talking. And there was a deal signed there. Well, we've signed deals with 7 different nations. Germany, I believe Mexico, Australia, a couple of them. And all of them, if you're looking at them, they're almost all of them, if not all, involved in energy, uh, either energy or let's just say the economy of the future. So, for example, there's a nation that was building blades for wind turbines, but all of a sudden they have a 30% tariff slapped on them for steel and aluminum. Well, it's harder to sell those blades now in the United States, but Canada has some wind projects going on that we could use the blades for. Why don't you send them here instead? Sure. Boom. $1 billion deal. Plus. And all of a sudden, those blades are not going in the United States direction anymore. It's not like they don't need them. It's not like there aren't businesses there who could use them, but they're coming here instead now. Which means we get to boost our wind electric generation capacity with parts that are already complete and finished that people are looking to reroute rather than keep in inventory. We might even be getting a good deal for them. Several deals like that have been signed with various nations. We didn't sit around and wait. We started signing deals pretty much right away. And all those other nations are eager to sign them with us as well. All those other nations are eager to reroute their trade flows. Brazil, India, and South Africa don't have the most reliable partners in China and Russia. And whatever partnerships they were building with the United States are no longer reliable. This may be a very, very, very clever move to basically, delicately, systematically, not on one big shot with a big loud noise, but just quietly in the background, slowly dismantling the BRICS and bringing three of those nations closer to the G7 and EU. As distasteful as it is to have Modi here, that may be what is going on. It's like, sir, your interests are probably no longer aligned with these three nations as much as they were when you pulled that stunt, allegedly, on our soil. Would you like to discuss a new security arrangement, realizing that if you would like to sit at the high rollers table, there are certain things that you cannot do anymore? And that would be one of them. I don't know if that's what's going on. I'm not in the room. But the table is certainly set for such conversations to be had. Remember, let's keep on saying, nations don't have friends. They have interests. And right now, we are tending to ours, as a lot of other nations are tending to theirs. And it struck me over the weekend. I started asking myself, what if we are learning that Mark Carney's foreign policy basically boils down to, listen, world, if all of y'all want to get crazy and take each other out, have at it. Meanwhile, we'll be right here in the background, ensuring that we take care of our interests along with those of the other countries who just don't want any part of your mess. And what if his domestic policy seems to be, we're going to professionalize a few things here because we no longer have the luxury of navel gazing. Because we know we'll always be all right, because the United States will always be there. So if we take 5 or 7 years to take a decision rather than 2 or 3, while we can be as productive as it would be normally, we don't really lose all that much from it. That security blanket is no longer there, right? The rug has been pulled out from under us. So we got to be a little quicker. It's almost like Christina Aguilera in Fighter. Maybe just a little bit stronger, maybe just a little bit wiser. Thanks for making me a fighter. Maybe learn a little bit faster. Maybe that's what we're doing. Maybe it's not about upending stuff or glossing over Indigenous rights and treaty or environmental protections or all that kind of stuff, or even human rights. It's just that right now, we need to focus. And we need to take care of ourselves. Right? We have the G7 countries and the European Commission that are there. I mean, the EU is 27, 26 different countries. Some of them are a little more Putin aligned, some of them less. We got some good news from Poland recently in that I think it was the president, if I remember correctly, had held a vote of confidence with the change in government, which went a little more to the right. And it seems that he won that vote of confidence, so there will be a countering balance to that right force. So whatever attempts there are from that party that will be ruling to try to move more in the hands of Putin, there will be an opposing force trying to temper that. So that might not be as as bad as it could be. Let's put it that way. But yeah, we have a whole bunch of nations all of a sudden just reconsidering priorities, trade flows, and probably feeling that, yeah, this stuff is moving really, really fast in the United States. So perhaps we should move with a little more alacrity and purpose here. We don't have the luxury of spending a year and a half considering this one report before we move on to the next stage. We're going to have to do certain things simultaneously and with a little more resolve and speed. Not saying that that's what it is. We don't have enough evidence at all to be able to say, okay, there are enough decision points, there are enough markers that we can point to and say this. We're noticing pattern, we're connecting some dots here, or that's what's going on. But if Mark Carney is a long-term game player and a strategist in the way that a lot of people appear to think he is, and a man with a plan, part of that plan may be talking to other nations and from a very qualified and experienced international banker perspective, laying out on paper, showing the math, how, what you're doing may work for you and might be good for you in the next 2 or 3 years, but 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, this is where it leads. Whereas if you make a move now to come a little more to our side, slowly, gradually, it doesn't have to be a big, bold move where you're making a lot of noise. Just basically like quiet quitting these other alliances or diminishing them, reducing them. This might be in your overall long-term benefit. The stage is most definitely set for that. So again, for those of us who are strategic political communications, that type of stuff, junkies, this is a time of very, very high excitement. But let's not kid ourselves here. The stakes are really high. And if the world keeps on getting darker at the speed at which it got darker since we talked to each other last Thursday live, people are going to have to move fast if they're going to want to adapt. Right? Remember, survival doesn't necessarily belong to the person who's strongest in the moment, but the one who is most nimble, has the best ability to cooperate, network, and adapt. Hopefully, our Prime Minister is showing us that Canada is not the slow gazelle here. All right, kids and cubs. I believe that is the end of the episode. We have more stuff for you, but I'm sure that we'll be able to bring that in later episodes this week. But that's enough for today, because there's a lot of moving chess pieces here, and there's a lot of dark news, first of all, which is hard to take, but a lot of complexity. And I've probably worked your brains enough for the moment. So, kids and cubs, that is the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you loved listening to us, because we love making this for you. And I really can't wait to go after the show and read your comments in the chats, because I have not been able to follow a lot of it, because I had prepared notes for that particular section that I was had on the screen and was making sure I was referring to make sure I get things right here. And I didn't have a chance to see things as they were coming up. but I have an impression here that because I know the standard of the fare that you post in the chat is going to be absolutely delightful, and I'm probably going to learn a lot as well. Please bring in your different perspectives, because right now, like I said, what I'm saying is things that I see potential to see happen. But I mean, like I said, the markers aren't enough there to say, yes, this is definitely where we're going, what's happening. So if you see things, because if you're noticing some dots and you're noticing, well, yeah, it could be that, but maybe this is happening too. Please send us your theories and your thoughts and what you see happening. God, Kit Linda here. I hear the Penguins are close to signing on, so America may have something to celebrate. Oh, jeez, no. Oh, you're bad. You're bad. You're so bad. I love it. I approve. Trust me, I approve. But ooh, you're bad. All right. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially when you add a little something of yourself in there. And Kits and Cubs, also because I hope he's still watching. But that thread I told you about from Skip is Chris on the socials. Do go and look at that because uh, at his feed, because parts 5 and 6, I believe those are the last two parts of his in-depth look into what Danielle Smith does, is complete and is just as worth your time as the first 4 segments were that we talked about the other day on the show. So please take some time to go look at that. Also, if you're really interested in Alberta stuff, you might want to follow the Breakdown Alberta's feed right now, because the rate at which stuff is coming out on that one is pretty fast and furious, and there's probably going to be a lot more coming. A lot of the national news is probably going to be set there over the next while. So yeah, please, these are going to be good sources. We have a Kit Linda here saying yes. Apparently, they set up 3 sites for protests that are nowhere where the G7 delegates can see them. Yeah, I think there are 3 or 4 in all. There's one in Banff proper, and then there are a couple of others somewhere else. I think maybe in Calgary or something. But yeah, there's nothing coming. There's not going to be much happening in Kananaskis itself with regard to that, I would suspect. But yeah, gonna be we are cursed with living in interesting times. We really are. If you would like to ensure that you do not miss an episode, Kits and Cubs, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, who has sponsored our pod page. And if you click on the QR code, that's magically going to appear right now. Look at that, just like magic. Then you scan it, it will bring you to our site. And if you're listening, the address is podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. If you go there and you click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. It's that simple. It really is. And you might want to subscribe, because I have a feeling that the news is going to be juicy over the next little while and plentiful. Now, Kits and Cubs, if you would like to support us in other ways, because we know that you like to help just as much as we do, well, then Kits Elaine and Kits Cassie will be beckoning you to surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page and smash with our buttons. Like, share, and subscribe. They are waiting for you. And, they're not as thirsty for attention as Danielle Smith is, but they do like some attention. So if you are able to grant it, they and we, as your grizzly and beaver, would be very, very, very pleased for the attention that you would give us. So thank you so very much for that, Kits and Cubs. We appreciate everything that you do. And for those of you who are watching, we might be hitting a milestone here at the Beaver Lodge, with our YouTube channel closing in on 600,000 views since we started on July 1st, 2022. We are fewer than 400 views away from that. So that will be a big milestone. So thanks to all of you who have done what you have done by checking in with our content to get our numbers that high. We never would have dreamed that that would be the case when we started on YouTube one day, but we are incredibly grateful for all the love you send us. Thank you for that. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, Kiss and Cups, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. And if you would like to help us with that, we would be very, very grateful for your expression, your enthusiastic expression of encouragement. And you could let us know that you're sending us that encouragement, either in the form of a cup of hot chocolate for yours truly, for you are what you drink, or a cup of dark coffee for Mr. Grizzly, who needs that jolt to get started and be his grizzly self in the morning. Well, if you would like to help us with that, a donation through our coffee page to the Emergency Hydration Fund would be most welcome and appreciated. So you would scan that QR code that has appeared up there. That will bring you to our coffee page. And if you are listening, it is coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And whatever you do, when you put a little coinage in there and it jingles, well, one, it makes us happy. Two, it really increases your sex appeal because, hey, once you donate, everyone knows that you are an informed and engaged citizen. And that is very, very sexy. Then, of course, you earn our undying appreciation, which is worth a lot, actually. So, if you would like to help, we would very, very much appreciate it. We thank you for your time and anything that you can donate. No donation is too small. If you're not able to donate, however, no worries, because you are already giving us the gifts of your attention and participation, and they are beyond value. And we thank you for those. But we do like to hear from you. So why not write to us? TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. It's also the address you can use to send a donation if you would like to buy Canadian and bypass the CE Tech Bros. But if you want to write to us and let us know what you think, what your thoughts on where the world is going, on how Canada might be positioning itself, your theories, things that you've noticed. Hey, maybe this could be important. Send them to us. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to everyone who sent us comments about our interview with Bonnie Critchley, whether they be positive or constructive. We appreciate them. We are looking at them. We are factoring them in. And yes, but thank you also for tuning into the interview, which is doing well on our site as well. And we appreciate that. We appreciate all the support. It's that simple. So please write to us. If you want to communicate with us via our socials at TrueEager on the X platform or at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, very welcome to hear from you there. True North Eager Beaver at Facebook, which is our original home for about 14 or 15 years on the web now. So that's the place too. Our coffee page as well. You can subscribe there and there's content there for you. Or right here on YouTube, if you happen to be watching live with the Dan Fam or on your own time, leave us a little comment. We do read everything. Not able to get back to everyone, but we do read everything. And like your donations in terms of tips, your donations in terms of content also go back into the show and make it better. So thanks for all that you do. Kits and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do, it seems I must issue a gentle correction on myself because clearly I had some incorrect information and I have been repeating it for a long time. But over the course of the weekend, the Quebec Liberal leadership race vote came to a close, and I was under the impression that the results would not be announced until July 14th, which I thought was weird when I first spotted it. And I thought it was weird because it was weird. They did announce the results on the same day. And as expected, Pablo Rodriguez did win the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party. So he's on the way. It seems that, listen, it has the potential to be good for him. in that things have shifted in Quebec such that it looks like the next election will be more of a traditional one between Liberals and the Parti Québécois, with the referendum question on the ballot somehow, whether or not to have one or not. Now, things could shift because the CAQ could do what the Liberals did and decide to change their leader. Right, the election's not scheduled before October 2026, so there's plenty of time to do that and throw something in the mix. But assuming that things stay as they are, this could be good for the new Liberal leader, who has a personality that is definitely much more warm and engaging, which would be a sharp contrast to the leader of the Parti Québécois, who is a little more dour and sour. Um, However, it would seem that word on the tweet, based on people who have worked with him, is that Pablo Rodriguez is not known to be the person who does the greatest amount of homework, who's not particularly inclined to like to study very much, and that might need to change if he wishes to be effective, because Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, the leader of the Parti Québécois, most definitely does prepare and study. So, and basically waving, like, if you don't want a referendum, vote for us. That probably won't be enough. He's probably going to have to come with something else. And if there's anything, the sovereignty battle, it's probably not going to be very wise to do it the same way we did it before, by having, like, big rallies with flags, and my rally is bigger than yours. His best avenue might just be, have you seen the world around you right now? I say, whether you're for or against this, it's just not the right time. And that might be enough of an argument right there. So we'll see how he does it. But yes, he is the leader. So there you go. Also, because democracy is something that you do, you got some by-elections coming up, provincial ones in Alberta. So in 3 electoral districts. So please, in that case, do all the things that you need to do, get to know your candidates, and make sure that you're making a plan to vote, because this matters. All right. Let's see. I guess that's all the democracy is something that you do. So kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. Please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Now, on the count of 3, and I do have an Easter egg for you, so I will be back. But can I hear all of you together say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. In 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that was very good. So much so that even the twins, top and bottom here, really appreciated it and are begging me, urging me to indulge you. So I will. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs. We have some good news, well, from the tennis world, because I'm a big tennis nut. But a gentleman that we have been speaking to you for a while won his first ever ATP Tour event. This young man named Gabriel Diallo, who we have mentioned before on our show, as I told you about, was playing in the final at the grass court event in Hertogenbosch. That's in the Netherlands. And he defeated, in a very, very tight match, a player named Zizou Bergs, 7-5 and 7-6 in the tiebreaker. Tiebreaker went to 8. And 8-6 in the tiebreaker, to secure his first ever title. He is 23 years old. He entered the top 100, going to a final in Almaty, Kazakhstan last year, and now has won his first title. And with that win, he enters the world's top 50. He's now ranked number 44 in the world. So this is the young man, Gabriel Diallo, sporting a new hairdo with the blonde for this particular tournament. And yeah, he really, really played well all tournament long. I think he only dropped one set for the entire tournament. So there you go, kids and cubs. Canada's latest singles tennis champion, Gabriel Diallo. Keep an eye on him. That young man is going places. All right. That's all for me today, kids and cubs. Please have a most beaverific day and join us tomorrow where we're certainly going to have more for you with regard to the G7 after the first day of meetings. And who knows what's going to pop up. But hopefully the dark news can slow down for a bit because that, since Thursday, was a lot. Way, way, way too damn much. And, we all need time to breathe now and then. All right. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye.